Kashish Aneja, who's a lawyer who specializes in global health and privacy laws. He joins us now from Delhi. Kashish, really, really great to have you on the program. Being tracked on my phone sounds like an abuse of my human rights. I mean, shouldn't there be a law against that?
Hi, Nan. Thanks for having me over. So there should definitely be a law for there, and there are laws in place. And primarily, why an emergency is a legal condition which may legitimize restrictions of freedoms. It's all right provided these restrictions are proportionate and limited to the emergency period. And this leads me to the data privacy principles, which are to be used in every law, which is applicable even to Italy, since it's part of the European Union. And so it's important for such laws to have principles such as purpose limitation, which basically means that there should be a reasonable nexus between the objects and the means to achieve them. Then the data should respect storage limitation. It means that there should be time-bound retention and proper destruction or the deletion of data once the purpose has been met. Then these laws should protect and ensure that the minimal amount of data should be collected and only which is necessary to achieve the limited objective. Transparency and accountability is again an essential instrument which such laws should respect, and hence the government should ensure that there is full public disclosure and there are independent regulatory authorities in place. Now, EU GDPR has this in place, and Italy, since we are using this example, also respects the EU GDPR. So what's important? So while the concern is legit, it's important to keep the context in mind in which the surveillance takes place.
And actually, to be fair to the Venetian authorities, they have said they are not going to share this data with anybody. They're going to use it for their own purposes of making the city a nicer place to visit and also to live. But what are the calculations that need to be made in terms of giving up one's personal privacy during a pandemic and the dangers that giving up that privacy might present to us in the future? And I'll give you an idea about that after you answer this question.
So Adnan, that's a very legit concern. But I think this pandemic has taught us many lessons, and it has also exposed certain vulnerabilities, and one of them being the inability to balance rights. So and in this context, we're talking about the right to privacy versus the right to health, right? But the entire discourse should be how to achieve the right to health along with the right to privacy. And that can happen when there are due laws in place. So obviously, individuals who are placed in those jurisdictions where there are lack of laws, and of course there are authoritarian governments that will use this opportunity to expand their surveillance efforts. But at the same point, there are robust democratic countries too that will be able to make this balance right. So clear standards governing data should be there, and this should not be used as a restraint, but also as a way to enable responsible uses of data, including data used for emergencies.
Okay, so my example actually doesn't relate necessarily to Venice, but just technology as a whole. And I'm thinking about health apps. There's so much information in there. What is the danger of my insurance company finding out what my heartbeat is after I've walked very gently for just 1 kilometer and I'm so unfit that my heart rate shows that actually, you know what, you might be a health danger later, so my insurance company looks at that and increases my premiums? Surely that's possible. Insurance companies would love to have that kind of information.
So that again is a very legit concern, and that is a concern which we should be careful about while we sign documents, because once we give consent to particular thing, the individual company is free to do whatever comes in. And hence the purpose limitation criteria. That is the purpose for which the data is to be collected. That should be the only purpose for it should be used. That's a very important principle that kicks in when you talk about insurance companies using our data or not. So while we are using such applications, such watches, and so on and so forth, we should be careful what we consent to, and we should follow up where the data is being used.
Okay, this is a simple question then, Kashish. You're offered a free trip to Venice. You know how much you're going to be tracked. Is there any second thought in your mind that you don't take advantage of that offer to visit one of the most beautiful cities in the world?
First of all, I won't miss the opportunity to visit Venice. I just love that place. But having reasonable concerns in mind, I know how the EU GDPR is in place. I know the laws in place. I know if they are tracking my data, it would most likely be for a limited public health objective, and it would, at the end of the day, stop being in existence once the purpose is met. So I would be quite comfortable because I know the legal aspects which are applicable in Venice.
Kashish, thank you so much indeed for your time. That is Kashish Aneja telling us that it's worth going to Venice, and you can even take your mobile phone with you.